When the wife asks judge to bring a final witness, husband and mistress instantly freeze in shock. Hit a like button and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you are watching from. Now, let's continue with the story. The courtroom was silent, except for the soft rustling of papers and the occasional whisper between lawyers. Sophie stood in the center of the room, her back straight, her chin lifted. She wore a navy blue dress, simple yet elegant, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside her. Her fingers curled slightly at her sides, but only she knew how cold they were. The judge sat high on his bench, expression unreadable, while the jury members shifted slightly in their seats, waiting for the proceedings to begin. Across the room, Ethan, her husband of 12 years, sat beside his lawyer. He looked calm, even smug, his charcoal grey suit crisp, his golden wristwatch catching the light. Every now and then, he leaned toward his lawyer, who whispered something in his ear, and a small smirk would tug at his lips. Beside him sat Jessica Lane, the other woman, the mistress. She wore a tailored red dress, the color of boldness, confidence, and destruction. Her golden hair was curled to perfection, her makeup flawless. She held her hands delicately in her lap, her nails painted a pale pink. From the outside she looked poised, unaffected, but Sophie didn't miss the way her throat moved when she swallowed, the slight twitch of her fingers. Sophie's gaze dropped to her left hand, where a wedding ring still circled her finger. The diamond was small but beautiful, just like the love she once believed in. The weight of it felt different now, heavier than before. Her mind drifted back to a night that now felt like a lifetime ago. The restaurant was dimly lit, expensive, exclusive. A white candle flickered between them, the flame reflected in their glasses of red wine. The aroma of fresh pasta and rosemary filled the air. It was their anniversary. Ethan had reached across the table, taking her hand in his thumb grazing over her skin. "To us," he had said, lifting his glass. Sophie had smiled, warmth spreading in her chest. To us. She had been so blind. Because just hours later, she had learned the truth, the betrayal hidden behind his perfect smile. The courtroom felt colder now, as if the walls had absorbed the tension thick in the air. Sophie sat at the plaintiff's table, her hands clasped together, her nails digging into her palms. Across from her, Ethan leaned back in his chair, his confidence unshaken. Jessica sat beside him, her expression carefully neutral, though her fingers twisted the hem of her red dress. Sophie's lawyer, Daniel Reed, rose from his chair, a stack of neatly arranged documents in his hands. His voice was steady, clear. "Your Honor, we have obtained substantial evidence proving Mr. Ethan's infidelity and financial deception." He stepped toward the judge's bench, placing the documents down one by one. Hotel receipts, private messages, secret bank transfers, each piece of paper a dagger to Sophie's chest. She kept her face neutral, refusing to let Ethan see her pain. Ethan, however, only chuckled softly, shaking his head as if the entire thing amused him. "This is all circumstantial," he said, his voice smooth, practiced. He turned to the judge. "There's no real proof that I did anything inappropriate. A man can stay at a hotel for work. A man can send money to anyone. That doesn't mean what she's implying." Jessica lifted her chin, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Honestly, this is ridiculous," she added, shaking her head. "I don't even know why I'm here. This is a waste of time." Sophie gritted her teeth. A waste of time? The judge skimmed over the documents, his brows furrowed, his expression unreadable. But Sophie could feel it. This wasn't enough. Ethan was too good at lying, too good at twisting the truth. She needed more than just evidence. She needed a witness. Her stomach twisted as she glanced toward Daniel. He met her gaze, understanding instantly. Without saying a word, he turned back to the judge. "Your Honor," Daniel said firmly, "we would like to call an important witness to the stand." For the first time, Ethan's smirk faltered. Jessica's breath hitched, her hand tightening into a fist. The air shifted. The doors at the back of the courtroom creaked open, and as the witness stepped inside, the color drained from Ethan's face. The courtroom faded away as Sophie's mind drifted back to the past, the life she thought she had, the love she believed in. Their marriage had once been a dream, or at least that's how it appeared to the outside world. Ethan was charming, successful, the perfect husband. He sent her flowers at work, left love notes in her purse. Their friends admired them, their families adored them. "You two are meant for each other," they would say, and Sophie had believed it. She remembered the late-night talks, when they'd lie awake in bed, whispering about their dreams. Ethan would stroke her hair and tell her how lucky he was. "You're my everything, Soph," he'd say, his voice full of warmth. She had been happy, so happy. Their vacations had been picture-perfect sunset walks on the beach, wine tastings in Napa, ski trips in Aspen. They had the kind of life others envied. But memories can be deceptive. Now, as she sat in the courtroom, she let herself see the truth. The lonely dinners, where she sat alone with a glass of wine, waiting for Ethan to come home from yet another urgent meeting. The missed anniversaries, the unanswered texts, the business trips that never seemed to end. And then, that night, the night her entire world shattered. 1 year ago. It was raining that evening, a soft drizzle that made the city lights blur like a watercolor painting. Sophie had planned a surprise for Ethan, a reservation at their favorite restaurant, the one where he had proposed. She had been so excited, texting him, "Meet me at Bellagio's at 8, I have a surprise for you." He had replied, "Can't tonight, sweetheart. Stuck at work. Rain check." Disappointment had settled in her chest, but she hadn't been upset. Work was work. She had understood. Until she walked into Bellagio's because she had already made the reservation, because she didn't want to waste the night. And then she saw them, Ethan and Jessica. They were sitting at a dimly lit corner table, 2 glasses of wine between them. Ethan's hand rested on Jessica's, his fingers tracing slow circles against her skin. Jessica laughed, tilting her head slightly, her lips curved in a smile that Sophie had once thought belonged to her. Her heart had stopped. Her breath had caught in her throat. For a moment, she thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was just a work dinner. And then Ethan leaned in and kissed her. Right there, in front of everyone, so casual, so effortless, like it wasn't the first time, like it was normal, like he wasn't married. Sophie had frozen, her entire body trembling. That night, something inside her had died. And now, in the courtroom, as Ethan turned slightly in his chair, his smirk returning, Sophie clenched her jaw. He thought he had won. He had no idea what was coming next. The courtroom was silent. Not the kind of silence that felt calm, but the kind that crackled with tension, like the air before a thunderstorm. Sophie sat stiffly in her chair, her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles had turned white. This was it. Her lawyer, Daniel Price, stood up, his voice steady. "Your Honor, the plaintiff requests an important witness to be brought in." For the first time that day, Ethan's confidence wavered. His smirk twitched. His fingers curled slightly against the polished wood of the defense table. Jessica, seated beside him, shifted uncomfortably. Her manicured nails dug into the fabric of her red dress as she threw Ethan a quick, questioning glance. "Who?" her eyes seemed to ask. Sophie didn't move. She only watched. The judge, an older man with sharp eyes that missed nothing, leaned forward. "Very well, bailiff. Let the witness enter." A heavy pause. Then the doors swung open. The air shifted. Footsteps echoed against the marble floor as someone stepped into the courtroom. Ethan's face drained of color. Jessica let out a soft, startled gasp. Her body went rigid, her fingers tightening into fists. Sophie? She sat perfectly still, only a slight raise of her chin betraying the storm inside her. Because there, standing in the doorway, was the witness. The person who held the one truth Ethan and Jessica never wanted the world to hear. A truth that could destroy everything. A truth that could change everything. The courtroom door creaked open, and in walked a little boy. He was no more than 7 years old small, with neatly combed brown hair, dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark trousers. His steps were hesitant, his hands gripping the sleeve of the bailiff who had escorted him in. But it wasn't his presence that sent a shockwave through the room. It was his eyes. Ethan's eyes. The same deep-set blue, the same sharp gazingly, filled with something Ethan's never held. Innocence. A loud, stunned gasp escaped Ethan's lips. Jessica's hands, which had been folded neatly on her lap, clenched into trembling fists. Her face went white as a sheet. Sophie? She didn't move. She just watched. Her heart was pounding, but her expression remained composed. She had waited for this moment. The little boy Michael stood at the witness stand, his small fingers curling around the edge of the wooden railing. His big, round eyes darted across the room, scanning unfamiliar faces. Then he found Sophie. She gave him a small, reassuring nod. The judge cleared his throat, glancing over at Sophie's lawyer. "Mr. Price, who is this child?" Daniel Price rose from his chair, his voice steady, measured. "Your Honor, this is Michael." He turned, locking eyes with Ethan. Ethan's son. A ripple of shock coursed through the courtroom. Murmurs, gasps. Someone in the back even let out a quiet, "Oh my God." Ethan stiffened, his jaw clenched so tight that the muscle in his cheek twitched. His hands gripped the table as if trying to hold on to the last bits of control. "Jessica?" Jessica looked frozen in place. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Her breathing had become shallow, her entire body tense. The truth was out. Sophie slowly stood up. She walked to the witness stand, kneeling down beside the little boy, keeping her voice soft, gentle. "Michael, sweetheart, can you tell the judge what you told me?" Michael hesitated, glancing at Ethan, his father. Ethan, who had never acknowledged him, never claimed him. Michael's little chest rose and fell as he swallowed hard. Then his lips parted, and in the smallest, softest voice, he said, "My daddy told me not to tell anyone about me and Mommy." Silence. Not just in the courtroom, but in the world. Jessica let out a sharp breath, her nails dug into her palms. Ethan's fists clenched. Sophie simply placed a hand on Michael's shoulder, steadying him. Because the storm had only just begun. Jessica's hands trembled as if the weight of the courtroom walls was closing in on her. She gripped the hem of her dress, her breath coming in short, uneven gasps. The little boy Michael stood in the witness stand, his small hands gripping the railing. And in his soft, innocent voice, he had said the one thing that shattered everything. Mommy said Daddy was a liar. Ethan's face twisted, his lips parted, but no words came out. Jessica turned to him, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "Ethan, she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What is he talking about?" Ethan didn't answer. He couldn't. Jessica's nails dug into her palms. She turned back to the judge, to the audience, to everyone watching her. And then, in a shaky voice, she blurted out, He's not mine." More gasps, more whispers. Sophie? She didn't move. She just stood there, her face composed, her hands steady at her sides. Jessica's eyes darted back and forth between Sophie and Ethan, desperation creeping into her expression. "I swear I didn't know about this," her voice cracked. "I thought I was the only one. I didn't—" She stopped, sucking in a sharp breath. Ethan turned his head slowly, looking at her for the first time. And in his gaze, there was no affection, no regret, just cold calculation. Jessica's lips trembled. "Ethan, say something." Silence. Michael shifted on his feet, his small fingers still gripping the wooden railing. His voice was soft, but clear. "Mommy said Daddy was a liar." Jessica shut her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were full of tears. She looked at Ethan again, her voice barely a whisper now. "Did you ever love me?" Ethan exhaled through his nose. Jessica shut up. Her breath caught. The words hit her like a slap. Sophie finally spoke. "Tell the truth, Jessica." Jessica's throat tightened. She could feel every single pair of eyes in the courtroom burning into her. She had been so sure of him, of their life together. And now she was nothing more than another secret. The room was still. And then Jessica let out a shuddering breath. And she said it. The truth. A thick silence dropped over the courtroom, the weight of Jessica's confession settling like a storm cloud. Ethan's fingers curled into fists, his face normally so composed, so smug and torted, into something unrecognizable. His voice was sharp, defensive. "I didn't know about the child." Michael flinched. Sophie instinctively placed a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. Jessica let out a broken, gasping sob. You're lying." Ethan's head snapped toward her, eyes blazing. "I'm lying? Oh, that's rich coming from you." Jessica's body shook, her carefully curated poise, the confident woman in red gone. The judge raised a hand. "Enough." His voice carried over the tension like a blade slicing through ice. "Mr. Ethan, you are addressing the court, not engaging in a lover's spat." A wave of whispers rippled through the spectators. Sophie exhaled. She could feel it, the shift. This wasn't just about her anymore. She looked down at Michael. His small hands gripped the wooden railing tightly. His face was so serious, his eyes too knowing for his age. She wasn't just fighting for her own justice. She was fighting for his. The lawyer stood. "Your Honor, I believe this changes everything." Jessica was still sobbing, her mascara streaked down her face, her hands shaking as she tried to wipe away the damage. "Ethan, you promised me. You said I was the only one." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Jessica, pull yourself together." She let out a harsh laugh, bitter and sharp. "Pull myself together? You're standing there acting like you had no idea, but you're a liar, Ethan. A liar. I bet you knew all along." Ethan turned away from her. He straightened his suit, tried to regain control of the moment. But it was too late. Sophie could see the cracks in his confidence, the unraveling of the illusion he had built for years. He was losing. Sophie lifted her chin. "Your Honor," her lawyer continued, "we ask that Michael's testimony be considered in the final judgment, and we request an immediate re-evaluation of all assets, as well as child support and full custody arrangements." Ethan's head snapped toward them. "You can't do that." The judge's eyes were unreadable. "You don't get to decide that, Mr. Ethan." Jessica buried her face in her hands. "Ethan?" He finally understood. He had already lost. The wooden gavel struck against the judge's desk, the sharp crack echoing through the silent courtroom. Divorce granted. Full custody awarded to the plaintiff. Sophie felt the words wrap around her like armor. The weight of years, the lies, the betrayal, the humiliation lifted from her shoulders in that single moment. She had won. Ethan's lawyer sighed, rubbing his temples as if already exhausted by his client. "Mr. Ethan, we can appeal." "Number." Ethan's voice was hollow. Defeated. He slumped in his chair, his once perfect composure shattered. The arrogance, the smugness gone. Sophie watched him closely. Was there regret in his eyes? A sliver of guilt? Maybe. But it didn't matter anymore. Jessica stood abruptly, nearly knocking over her chair. Her face was still streaked with tears, her lipstick smudged, her hands trembling. She glanced at Ethan. For help? For comfort? For anything? But he didn't even look at her. Jessica let out a bitter laugh. "You ruined everything, Ethan." He finally met her eyes. "No, Jessica, we ruined everything." She scoffed, grabbed her purse, and without another word, stormed out of the courtroom. Sophie didn't watch her go. She didn't care anymore. She turned back to the judge as he continued reading the final terms. The house hers, the account split, child support mandatory. Michael's small fingers wrapped around hers. "Are we going home now, Mommy?" he whispered. Her heart tightened. She kneeled beside him, cupped his little face in her hands. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going home." He smiled, a soft, innocent thing, not realizing that today his mother had given him more than just a home. She had given him justice. As she stood, she met Ethan's eyes one last time. There was nothing left to say. She turned away, her heels clicking against the polished courtroom floor. And for the first time in years, Sophie walked away free. Sophie stepped outside the courthouse, the heavy oak doors swinging shut behind her. The cold, suffocating walls of the courtroom were behind her now. A crisp breeze touched her face, carrying the scent of rain and freshly cut grass. Freedom. Michael's small hand slipped into hers, warm and certain. She looked down at him, his curious brown eyes blinking up at her. "Are we really free, Mommy?" he asked. Sophie smiled, kneeling down to his level. She tucked a strand of hair behind his ear and cupped his tiny face. "Yes, sweetheart, we're free." His smile grew, his innocent joy spreading like sunlight. For the first time in a long time, Sophie wasn't pretending. No more forced smiles, no more whispered apologies for a father who never showed up. No more waiting for love that never came. She straightened and took a deep breath, filling her lungs with hope. The world outside felt different. The sun shone a little brighter. The air felt lighter. And Sophie, for the first time in years, felt alive. She pulled out her phone, scrolling past unread messages, past old memories she wasn't ready to face yet, and opened her rideshare app. Just as she was about to book a ride, she hesitated. She looked down at Michael, his small fingers still clutching hers. "Want to walk for a bit?" she asked. His face lit up. "Really? Just us?" She nodded. "Just us." Hand in hand, they stepped onto the sidewalk, away from the courthouse, away from the past. Each step forward felt like a victory. Each breath felt like a promise. Sophie had lost a marriage, but she had gained something far greater. A new beginning. If you love powerful courtroom dramas, shocking legal battles, and stories where justice wins, you're in the right place. Like this video if you believe in fighting for the truth. Comment below what was the most powerful moment of this case. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an explosive legal showdown. More gripping cases are coming, soon, don't miss out.